Today we're going to be looking at the letter to the Church of Philadelphia. This is that famous letter that has that verse in it, Revelation 3:10, that promises to those who overcome, those who are faithful, that they will be kept from the hour of trial that comes on the whole earth to try those who dwell on the earth. This is a promise that many people have applied to present day believers. And we're going to take a look at this verse. We're going to look at it in detail. We're going to answer the question, who does this verse apply to? What exactly is the hour of trial and how long does it last? First, I'd like to just read the passage that's in Revelation chapter 3, and it starts with verse 7. And to the angel of the church in Philadelphia write, the words of the Holy One, the true One, who has the key of David, who opens and no one will shut, who shuts and no one opens. So let's just take a look at this little passage really quickly, because I think there are some things that we kind of need to look at here. Christ is describing some of the attributes of who he is and what he does and his relationship to these people in the Church of Philadelphia. He says about himself that he is holy. Now, this is an attribute that's primarily of God. Remember, the living creatures cry, holy, holy, holy. And this is an attribute that belongs to God that Jesus is claiming for himself. This is one of the ways that Jesus equates himself with being God. The second thing he says about himself is that he is the true one. That is, he doesn't tell lies. He is going to speak the truth. He is going to tell the truth, and he is the truth. Okay, so the next thing Christ says about himself is that he has the key of David. We know from Revelation 1 that Christ has the keys to death and Hades. Okay, he has the keys to those places, which means he controls the access to the place of the dead and actually who even dies. He has the keys to death. And we learn that he has the key of David. Now, this is very significant. This is actually a reference to Isaiah chapter 22, and it talks about Eliakim, who was the head steward or the head administrator under King Hezekiah. This is in Isaiah 22, verses 20 through 24. Now, the head steward or the head administrator is someone sort of like Joseph was to Pharaoh. Remember, Joseph was made second in command. He is given the authority to act on behalf of, in the case of Joseph, he could act on the behalf of Pharaoh, or in the case of Eliakim, he has all the authority to act on behalf of King Hezekiah. This is a very, very important role. To be second in command means to have all the authority of the one who is over you. Jesus is second in command underneath his Father. His Father has given Jesus the authority to act on his behalf, on God's behalf. That's in Revelation 7, where we see this angel from the rising sun. This is Christ, who has the seal of the living God. There aren't two people or two entities who carry all the authority of God. There is only one, and that's Jesus. And also we learn here that Jesus has the key of David. This is the same key that Eliakim had in Isaiah chapter 22. So in saying that Jesus possesses the keys of David, he is saying a lot of things. He is saying, one, that he is actually the legal heir to the throne of David, and also that he has authority of all things that belong to God. We also know that Jesus can open a door that no one shuts, and he can shut a door that no one opens. And this is with regard not only to the door in heaven, which we'll see that he can open. It also has to do with death and Hades, that these are, death is actually, he has the ability to control who dies and who doesn't. And also the place of the dead, which is what Hades or Sheol represents. So later on in the book, when we talk about how at the fifth trumpet that there will be people who are tormented by those entities that come from the pit, and these people can't die. And you go, well, why can't they die? Because Jesus is not letting them die. They can't die. They can't go to the place of the dead because that door is shut. And once Jesus shuts a door, no one can open it, and vice versa. The same thing is true when the beast dies. Remember, the seventh king is going to die and come back as the eighth king. He can die and be resurrected because Jesus is the one who is controlling who comes and goes in all of these places, whether it's the place of the dead, whether it's death itself having control over people. Jesus is the one who controls all of that. Satan has no control over that. He has nothing to say or do about any of those places that Jesus now has the keys for. Verse 8, I know your works. Jesus says this about a lot of the churches, that he knows what's going on. He knows their works. He is totally aware of everything that's happening. Behold, I have set before you an open door, which no one is able to shut. I know that you have but little power, and yet you've kept my word and have not denied my name. Behold, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan, who say they are Jews, but are not, but lie. Behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. Okay, so let's take a look at the synagogue of Satan here. We've already looked at this a bit in the letter to the church of Smyrna, because this synagogue of Satan, those who say they are Jews but are not, we've already talked about them a bit. I'll just go over that briefly. If you want to learn more about that, you can look at my video on the letter to the church of Smyrna. For me, the key to this is understanding how Jews and Israel are used both in the Gospel of John and in the book of Revelation. Jews and those who are of the 12 tribes of Israel are not synonymous. Now, in the Gospel of John, Jesus looks at Nathanael and he says, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no guile or no deceit, no lies. There's no guile found in him. And Jesus calls Nathanael, who has no guile or no deceit, an Israelite. In the Gospel of John, in many places, Jesus talks about the Jews. Some of the Jews are people who believed in him and then fell away. And some of the Jews are like Jewish leaders who didn't believe in Jesus at all. This is a gathering or synagogue of Satan. Satan controls these people who do not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. Okay, this is a synagogue of Satan. Now, we know about the 144,000 of Israel that they do not lie. And in this context, what it means is that they acknowledge Jesus as the Messiah. We read about the fact that they do not lie. Revelation 14, verses 4 and 5. It is these, that is the 144,000, who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. It is these who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been redeemed from mankind as first fruits for God and the Lamb, and in their mouth no lie was found, for they are blameless. John 1:47, Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there is no deceit. And John 8, verse 44, Jesus is talking. You are of your father the devil, and your will is to do your father's desires. He was a murderer from the beginning and does not stand in the truth, because there is no truth in him. Okay, now there is truth in Jesus. He's the true one, remember? When Satan lies, he speaks out of his own character, for he is a liar and the father of lies. And of course, he's probably the father of liars as well. Similar to the passage found in the letter to the church of Smyrna, where Israelite believers are contrasted with the Jews of the synagogue of Satan. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich. And the slander of those who say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. So the bottom line is that there are Jews, some who are of Israel and they are of the truth, and there are some who are of the synagogue of Satan and they are liars. Then in Revelation 3, in the letter to the Church of Philadelphia, it says that Jesus is going to make those of the synagogue of Satan come and bow down before your feet, and they will learn that I have loved you. Some translations will say he's going to make them worship at the feet of the 144,000. Okay, and I believe that's who the letters to the seven churches are written to. To worship or to bow down is to acknowledge the elevated status of someone else. So, for example, Joseph's brothers bowed down to him. That is, they worshiped him. They gave him honor as being someone whose status was above their own. There's another group of people, I'm not sure if I should even call them people. They're the people who are going to be given breath or spirit so that they can be in the image of the beast. And I don't think this is a statue. Okay, a statue and an idol are similar, and Revelation talks about idols, people who worship idols and demons and so on. But the image of the beast is something else. I believe the image of the beast is to the beast what believers who are made in the image of Christ are to Christ. We are the representation of Christ, and the individuals who be made in the image of the beast are representations, exact replicas of the beast. The beast is going to be indwelt by a spirit, Apollyon, who comes out from the bottomless pit, and I believe that these individuals who are chosen to be given spirit or breath will have the spirit of one of the watchers from the bottomless pit. So these will be hybrid entities who will require worship. And even though we're not hybrids, we have been given an elevated status because of the Spirit of God who lives inside of us, who is transforming us into the image of Christ. For the 144,000, the Jews who thought they were somebody are going to come and worship before the 144,000 of Israel because of their elevated status as kings and priests. Okay, they're destined for this role, just like the 24 elders are going to be kings and priests. Jesus says that those people of the synagogue of Satan are going to have to acknowledge that Jesus loves these people. Now, Philadelphia, the name Philadelphia actually means brotherly love, and it's connected to people who love brothers. And the 144,000 of Israel, I think, will be known for loving each other, for caring and respecting and honoring each other. But the word that Jesus uses here for loving these people, that the other people are going to have to bow down to, is not the word phileo, which is where we get Philadelphia from. It's the word agapeo, which we think of as agape love, love that's given to someone not because of merit, but because of choice, that God chooses to love us. The word agapeo actually means to prefer. It's a choice that we choose to prefer or to honor someone. And Jesus agapeos, or he agapes us in that he prefers us. And so for the Jews of the synagogue of Satan, they're going to know that they are not the people who are going to be preferred by God. God is going to give preference and honor and bestow his love and everything on these people. Okay, now we kind of get to the crux of the matter in verse 10. Because you have kept my word about patient endurance, I will keep you from the hour of trial. So what is the patient endurance that Jesus is talking about here? Okay, this is not written to us right now. A lot of the promises we can apply to us, but the specifics of the letters to the seven churches, I believe, will apply to end-time believers, specifically the 144,000 of Israel. And they need to persevere, have patient endurance, because they're going to be living through some really hard times, and they need to persevere and endure. They need to remain true to Christ no matter what the cost. And that may be that they have to overcome the infiltration of the harlot, just like some of those other churches have to do. And they have to be careful not to go along with what seems safe, that is Judaism, the conventional or contemporary way that Jews worship or don't worship Christ. They have to keep from falling away from their pure devotion to Christ. And what Jesus says here is they haven't denied his name. Jesus also says that they have little power or little strength, and that may be in light of the actual circumstances that they're in, that the world around them has a lot more power and strength. There's more of them than there are of the 144,000. They're going to be in the minority and persecuted. And this group of people may also be living primarily in Israel, possibly even in Jerusalem, and they have to persevere in the middle of some very difficult circumstances. Okay, so these are the ones who are going to be kept from the hour of trial. Now, if you look at commentaries, and I spent the better part of last evening looking at other people's views or other people's understanding of what does it mean to be kept from the hour of trial. And most people focus on the word kept. Does it mean that you're kept out of, that you're kept through, that people will be here during this time of trial and God is going to keep them through it? Or does it mean that they're going to be removed altogether? I don't think that that's the important word. I think there are two other words that are more important here. The word hour and the word trial. This is used as actually one of the defining verses to support or prove a pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, and so here's how that works. The hour of trial is usually interpreted as being the 7-year time of tribulation, which pre-tribulation eschatologists believe is the time of the wrath of God. So the full 7 years of tribulation is the wrath of God, which is why believers are not going to be here, because according to this position, believers are not destined for the wrath of God. Okay, so there's a lot of things there that need to be cleaned up, but we're not going to do all of that here in this video. So the hour of trial is thought by most people who believe in a pre-tribulation rapture to be the 7 years of tribulation, and that the faithful Church of Philadelphia, they understand to represent all end-time believers who will be removed from the earth before the 7 years of wrath begins. Okay, but here's my question. Is this the best and most accurate interpretation of this passage? All right, so we're going to look at a couple things here. One is, who are these letters written to? Okay, are they written to end-time believers like you and me, who will be here in the days leading up to Christ's second coming? Are these historical churches that this has already been fulfilled as prophecy? Or is this about the 144,000 of Israel, sort of like I've been hinting at in this video so far? Are these historical letters, or are these prophecy? Or is it some kind of a hybrid between the two? So among people who believe in a pre-tribulation rapture, the letters to the 7 churches are usually most often taught as the unfolding of church history, which would have begun at the time of the apostles in the letter to the church of Ephesus, and then every succeeding age of church history would follow afterward. The persecuted church would be the letter to the church of Smyrna, and so on and so forth, through Catholicism, the Reformation, and missionary church, and up till present day end times. According to this method of interpretation of basically historical church ages, the Laodicean and Philadelphian churches usually represent the last 2 churches of the end times. So the Philadelphia church is the faithful church, and the Laodicean church is the lukewarm church. Now, the lukewarm church is going to be spewed out of Jesus' mouth. The Philadelphia church, though, says they're going to be kept from the hour of trial, okay, because of their patient endurance, and they overcome, and so on. They'll be kept from the hour of trial. Now, most people who teach a pre-tribulation rapture also believe that every single Christian will be taken at the time of that rapture. So all believers will be taken, okay, as part of this Philadelphia church rapture before the 7-year tribulation. Now, there's a problem here, okay, and maybe some of you have identified this problem already. The problem is that we've got the Church of Laodicea. Now, are these people real Christians? Because if they are, they're going to be left behind. They're not part of that whole group then that's taken when Jesus comes for the Church of Philadelphia. Are the people in the letter to Laodicea, are they actual Christians or are they not? Okay, because if they're Christians, according to pre-tribulation eschatology, they need to go in that rapture too. But they're lukewarm and they're spit out of Jesus' mouth. Does this mean that they're not saved at all? Okay, and that's why they're left behind. Now, some people might say that, but there's a problem there too. And that is, Jesus says that the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches, and he walks among the 7 churches. Now, Jesus is responsible, or he's the steward over, the administrator of God's household. He's not the administrator over anybody else's household. It's Jesus' responsibility to ensure that these people, whether you're in the Church of Philadelphia or Laodicea, that you actually obtain that inheritance that has been promised for you. So it would seem that the Church of Laodicea is just as much part of the churches or the church as the people from Philadelphia. There's nothing in the letter to the Church of the Laodiceans that hints that these people are not saved. There's nothing here that differentiates this group from any other group of the 7 churches. They're all given promises. They all have a messenger that's coming to them. They're all told that they must hear what the Spirit is saying to them. And they're all told that they need to overcome. So we've got a problem here if we think that it's just the Church of Philadelphia that's going to be taken in the rapture. In addition, I've already pointed out in other videos that Jesus says he's coming for all of these churches, okay, that he is coming with the exception of the Church of Smyrna. And this is a letter to martyrs primarily, okay? This is a letter talking about martyrdom. We know that Jesus didn't come in the first century. He never came and collected any of those people, not in the letter to the Church of Ephesus or Pergamum or Thyatira, Sardis. He didn't come at any time and collect any of those people. He was coming for them. Some people would be left and some people would be brought to heaven. They would be taken. So I just want to make one other point here that I've made in numerous other videos, is that we don't see the church in Revelation. Okay, we see churches, assemblies, ecclesias, okay, groups of people who are worshiping God, who believe in Jesus. The church universal and triumphant that Paul talks about in his letters is not here in Revelation, except as we see the New Jerusalem. That is the church, but that's not until the very end. That's after the millennium. The letters were written to all 7 churches, okay, who comprise one group. And they're to hear what the Spirit is saying to all 7 of them. They represent one group or one entity, and I believe that's the 144,000 of Israel. So anyone who wants to use that historical method of church ages and then equating Philadelphia with people who will be raptured versus Laodicea, people who will be left behind, you'll have to show me how the Church of Laodicea are not believers at all, okay, in order for this to actually, the historical church age thing to actually work. But you got another problem here, and this is the hour of trial. What is the hour of trial? How long is it? When does it take place? And is it the 7-year tribulation, or is it something else? And I'm going to propose to you that it's something else, and that it's actually very knowable when this hour of trial will take place, how long it will last, and who is it a trial for? Okay, and I think that's the really important thing here as well, is knowing who is this trial for. So the first thing that I think we need to do is actually look at this word trial or testing. And this is from the Strong's number 3986, and it means temptation or test. So it can be a test in a positive sense, that someone is tested so that they are tried and come out as gold, like Peter talks about. Or they can be tested like Jesus was tested or tried in the wilderness when Satan came and tempted him. Or it can be a trial or a temptation or even a calamity or an affliction. And I think this word is going to carry more of the idea of a calamity. It's an hour of calamity that comes on the whole earth, and it's going to try and test people. We're going to find out who people are and what they're made of. Now, the tribulation, which is what people want to equate this with, is the hour of trial is the same thing as the hour of tribulation. Tribulation is an entirely different word. It's the Strong's number 2347. It's thlipsis, and it's pressure. That's what it means, particularly internal pressure that causes a person to have to, it's a challenge of being able to cope with something, especially if there's no way of escape. And it refers often to persecution. A trial may cause tribulation. That is, we're going through a circumstance that's meant to test us, and what is inside of us comes out as a result of this pressure that's being applied. And both of these words are used in the letter to the church of Smyrna. Do not fear what you're about to suffer. Behold, the devil is about to throw some of you into prison that you may be tested. Okay, and this is a test for finding out something positive about people that they actually are going to overcome. For 10 days, you will have tribulation. That's thlipsis. That's this pressure. You're going to have pressure for 10 days. Be faithful unto death, and I'll give you the crown of life. Tribulation is usually associated with persecution. Okay, let's take a look at the word hour. An hour can mean several things. It can be any defined preset length of time. Here's an example. John 16:2. They will put you out of the synagogues. Indeed, the hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he's offering service to God. Jesus often said, my hour has not yet come. That is his time for whatever, being the king of Israel, or his hour where he would be crucified, refers to a specific event that is going to be of an undisclosed duration, but it's a limited duration. The word hour can also mean 60 minutes. Where you have 24 of these, you end up with a day. Okay, so an hour can be a literal hour. Now, I'm going to go over these principles of interpretation and the way to interpret Revelation. These principles tend to apply with any book of the Bible that you're studying, but for Revelation, this is sort of my hermeneutical principles for how I interpret Revelation. Okay, the first thing is that all units of time I'm going to take as being literal. So the 1,260 days are real days, 42 months are 42 30-day months, half an hour is a half an hour, and so on. Any unit of time in Revelation is literal. That's how I view time in Revelation. Okay, in other places it can be figurative, but I think in Revelation all units of time should be taken literally unless there is some reason to not do it that way. Thus, I think the hour of trial is going to be a literal hour. We're going to find out if that's true or not. The second principle here is that the immediate context of a passage is going to be the first place that we look to find out what it means. So what is the context? What's its immediate context? The verses before and the verses after, and the surrounding verses. And there is a priority of context. So the first context is going to be the surrounding verses. Okay, what do those verses say? And if they don't say anything, then what does the book itself have to say about this? Is there anything else in the book that talks about this? How does the author of this book talk about this in other books? So Revelation was written by John. John wrote a gospel and 3 letters. And so, is there anything in any of those other books that talks about or has a reference to this that would help shed light on it? And the fourth is the extended priority, which is what else in the Bible talks about this. We start with the closest things and we work out from there. So we start out with the passages that are around the verse, and then we look at ones that are in the context of the book itself, and then we'll go and then we ask, are there any other books written by this person that could shed light on it? And finally, is there anything else in the whole Bible that talks about this, that could sort of illuminate what we're talking about here? So let me give you an example of this. In Revelation chapter 1, John sees Jesus. He's got 7 stars in his hand. He's walking among 7 lampstands. That's in Revelation chapter 1, verse 16. And then just a few verses later, in verse 20, just 4 verses later, John is told that the golden lampstands are the 7 churches and that the stars are the messengers or angels to the 7 churches. So right there in the context of Revelation is the interpretation. It's the meaning of what those symbols are. Part of what this does right away in chapter 1, it lets us know that much of what we read in Revelation is going to be symbolic, that the book itself may tell us what the symbols are, and then there are other times when we're going to have to look in other places to find out the meaning to the symbols. And the story is told via symbols. Real things are going to happen to real people, but the identities of the people are in symbols, and the events may be told symbolically as well. So the question now is this: are there any other passages in Revelation that contain the word hour, specifically with reference to a possible time of trial or calamity? Okay, and the answer to that question is yes, 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 yes. There are many references to the word hour that also include some really bad things that are happening. The very next time we see the word hour is actually in Revelation 9, verses 13 through 15. Then the 6th angel blew his trumpet, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar before God, saying to the 6th angel who had the trumpet, "Release the 4 angels who are bound at the great river Euphrates." So the 4 angels who'd been prepared for the hour, the day, the month, and the year were released to kill 1/3 of mankind. Okay, so here's an hour that's actually on a specific day, month, and year. So we know this is not a metaphorical hour. This is an actual hour that has a day associated with it, a month, and a specific year. 4 angels who are released have been prepared to be released on this specific hour, and they're going to kill 1/3 of mankind. I would say that's a calamity. Okay, in the next passage that we see the word hour is in Revelation 11, verses 12 through 14. And then they heard a loud voice from heaven saying to them, "Come up here." And they went up to heaven in a cloud, and their enemies watched them. At that hour, there was a great earthquake, and 1/10 of the city fell. 7,000 people were killed in the earthquake, and the rest were terrified and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe has passed. Behold, the third woe is soon to come. Okay, now this event is connected to the 6th trumpet. The second woe has passed. The second woe only lasts an hour. The 6th trumpet lasts an hour on a certain day, month, and year. And I would say that there is a calamity that's happening at this time, with a great earthquake, 1/10 of the city falling, and 7,000 people being killed. Both of these passages reference events taking place at around the same time, which is the second woe or the 6th trumpet. The passage in Revelation 11 puts the second woe, the 6th trumpet, on the same day that the 2 witnesses ascend into heaven. And from other passages of Scripture, we know that the day that the 2 witnesses ascend into heaven will be the day of the abomination of desolation. It's the day that the remnant of Israel will flee into the wilderness. All right, so when's the next time we see the word hour? That's in Revelation chapter 14, verses 6 through 11. Then I saw another angel flying directly overhead with an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on earth, to every nation and tribe and language and people. And he said with a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come." Okay, so here's an hour, and it's the hour of judgment that has come. "And worship him who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water." All right, so a second angel follows, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, she who made all nations drink the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality." All right, so we have the hour of judgment coming, and at the same time, we're told that Babylon has fallen. So this hour, the sixth trumpet, is connected with the ascension and resurrection of the two witnesses, a time of trial, a hour of judgment, and the fall of Babylon. And verse 9 here, "And another angel, a third, followed them, saying with a loud voice, If anyone worships the beast and its image and receives a mark on his forehead or on his hand, he will drink the wine of God's wrath, poured full strength into the cup of his anger, and he'll be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb, and the smoke of their torment goes up forever and ever. They have no rest, day or night, these worshippers of the beast and its image, and whoever receives the mark of his name." So these three angels are connected to the hour of judgment, which I believe could be an hour of trial. They're connected with the fall of Babylon. They're proclaiming the fall of Babylon. And the third thing is, this is the beginning of the worship of the beast. Okay, the worship of the beast, the taking the mark of the beast and the image of the beast. This actually signals the beginning of the day when the beast will begin to reign, which is on the day of the abomination of desolation. All right, so we have another hour that actually connects us now to the harlot, Mystery Babylon, and her judgment. And this is Revelation 17, verses 12, 13, and 15 through 18. "And the 10 horns you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast. And the angel said to me, The waters that you saw where the prostitute is seated are peoples and multitudes and nations and languages." Okay, in other words, the whole world. Okay, and remember, the hour of trial comes upon the whole earth, or the whole world. "And the 10 horns you saw, they and the beast will hate the prostitute. They will make her desolate and naked and devour her flesh and burn her up with fire. For God has put it into their hearts to carry out his purpose by being of one mind and handing over their royal authority to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. And the woman that you saw is the great city that has dominion over the kings of the earth." Okay, that great city is Mystery Babylon. Okay, Babylon the Great, who sits on all the nations of the world. The beast and the 10 kings are going to have authority for 1 hour to carry out the destruction of the harlot, Mystery Babylon. Revelation chapter 18, verses 2 and 3 again talk about this fall of Babylon. "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She's become a dwelling place for demons, a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, and a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality." Revelation 18:8. "For this reason her plagues will come in a single day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire, for mighty is the Lord God who judges her." Okay, so God is going to judge the harlot, but he's going to use the beast and the 10 kings, plus 4 angels, plus a 200 million man army to do it. Revelation 18:10. "They will stand far off in fear of her torment and say, Alas, alas, you great city, you mighty city, Babylon, for in a single hour your judgment has come." Okay, notice this is a single hour. This is reference not to a metaphorical hour, but a single hour. That judgment has come. Revelation 18:16 and 17. "Alas, alas, for the great city that was clothed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, adorned with gold and jewels and with pearls, for in a single hour all this wealth has been laid waste. In Revelation chapter 18, verses 19 and 20. And they threw dust on their heads as they wept and mourned, crying out, Alas, alas, for the great city, where all who had ships at sea grew rich by her wealth. For in a single hour she has been laid waste. It sounds like a trial to me. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints and apostles and prophets, for God has given judgment for you against her. The hour of trial that comes on the whole world is the sixth trumpet judgment of Mystery Babylon, the harlot, the entity that rules over the kings of the earth and is worldwide. A third of the world's population will be killed in a single hour on a single day by 4 fallen angels, a 200 million entity, army. Don't know if these are men or men who are, we have no idea. It's an army though. The beast and 10 kings with fire, smoke, sulfur, and plagues. The faithful of the 144,000 of Israel will be kept from this hour of trial. They will be taken into heaven just prior to this event, as evidenced by their presence in heaven before the 3 angels deliver those messages about the hour of judgment coming, and fallen is Babylon the Great, and don't take the mark of the beast. Okay, and this is what it says. Then I looked, and behold, on Mount Zion stood the Lamb, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his father's name written on their foreheads. Okay, this is key. Remember this about the name of the Lamb and the Father being written on their foreheads. Remember, the 144,000 are going to be sealed on their foreheads. Plus, the letter to the Church of Philadelphia talks about these people writing on their foreheads. In Revelation 3:12, the one who conquers, I'll make him a pillar in the temple of my God. Never shall he go out of it. And I will write on him the name of my God, the name of the city of my God, the new Jerusalem, which comes down from my God out of heaven, and my own new name. And then in verse 2 of Revelation 14, and I heard a voice from heaven like the roar of many waters, and like the sound of loud thunder. And the voice I heard was like the sound of harpists playing their harps, and they were singing a new song before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures, and before the elders. Let's go to Revelation 3:11. Hold fast to what you have, so that no one may seize your crown. Okay, we know that the 144,000 are called first fruits to God. Okay, that is, they're going to be that first tier of that last harvest. Okay, the last harvest is symbolically portrayed by the Feast of Tabernacles, a 7-day harvest, and they are the first fruits of that harvest. The Feast of Tabernacles is when the olives, the grapes, and other fruit are brought into the temple to be offered, and olives, the olive tree, represents spiritual Israel, and I believe the 144,000 will be sealed at the time of tabernacles. They're called first fruits, and that links us to one of those harvest festivals, and there's only one harvest festival where the first fruits have not been offered yet, and that's the Feast of Tabernacles. We're also told that they are redeemed. Now, whenever you see someone being redeemed, okay, especially with in the context of first fruits, we need to think about a firstborn male child who belongs to God, okay, and the firstborn males are redeemed. That is, they're not killed, okay. They're meant. You have to redeem your firstborn. If they were a firstborn lamb or something, you could sacrifice it. A firstborn donkey would have to be redeemed, or otherwise you have to break its neck. Because we know that they are firstborn, it means they're heirs. And if they're heirs, that means they have the opportunity to rule and reign with Christ, just like the 24 elders. And the 24 elders receive crowns. Crown symbolizes the right to rule. And when the 24 elders are in heaven, they cast their crowns because they don't rule in heaven. Only God rules in heaven, but they will rule on earth. And so will the 144,000 rule on earth if they hold fast to what they have, so that no one seizes their crown. So just like in the Old Testament days, if the firstborn son screwed up, like Reuben screwed up, he slept with his father's concubine, he forfeited his right to rule. Okay, and part of the firstborn birthright was that you were the head honcho, the ruler of your tribe. And so that firstborn status wasn't just, just didn't disappear. It went to the next son who could do it. And the 144,000 are also told that some of them will be thrown into prison, and some of them might even be martyred at the time during that 10 days of tribulation or persecution. And they're told to be faithful unto death, and they will receive the crown of life. It's that same crown that authorizes them to rule and reign. We know that this hour of trial is going to come on the whole earth to try those who dwell on the earth. Right? So when we see those who dwell on the earth or earth dwellers, we're talking about a specific group of people. We're not talking about all of mankind on earth. If the Bible's talking about all of mankind, it's going to talk about them as mankind or humankind or men or people, but it doesn't use the phrase to those who dwell on earth or earth dwellers. This is the first time we see that phrase, earth dwellers, those who dwell on the earth. They are a unique group of people, and the definition of an earth dweller is actually in Revelation 13:8. And all who dwell on the earth will worship the beast, all those whose names have not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life belonging to the Lamb who was slain. Okay, this is a mouthful. Let's look at the word dwell. What exactly does that mean? Well, according to the Strong's Dictionary, it means to settle down as a permanent residence, as in you are in a fixed or permanent dwelling, to be exactly at home. So someone who dwells on the earth has decided that this earth is their permanent residence. They are not going to change their mind about that. Earth dwellers are in contrast to those who dwell in heaven. Revelation 13:6. And the beast opened his mouth to speak blasphemies against God and to slander his name and his tabernacle, those who dwell in heaven. So you can live on the earth and be a heaven dweller at heart. That is, your citizenship is in heaven, and that's your permanent home. Or you can be an earth dweller, and this is your home right here. And you've decided this is where it's going to be. And you are going to worship the beast. You've already decided you're going to do that. And God, in his foreknowledge, having known that, will never even write their names in the book of life. So the judgment of the harlot and the earth dwellers will take place at the sixth trumpet, the second woe, and this is going to be the first of two judgments on the harlot. The second judgment will be necessary because some of the earth dwellers will still be alive after the sixth trumpet judgment. Revelation 9:21. Now the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues still did not repent of the works of their hands. They did not stop worshiping demons and idols of gold and silver and bronze and stone and wood, which cannot see or hear or walk. And furthermore, they did not repent of their murder, sorcery, sexual immorality, and theft. The final judgment of the earth dwellers and the harlot will be at the time of the seventh bowl. Revelation 16:19, and the great city was split into three parts, and the cities of the nations collapsed. And God remembered Babylon the Great and gave her the cup of the wine of the fury of his wrath. So here's my understanding of the letter to the Church of Philadelphia. Like all of the other letters, all 7 of the letters were written to the 144,000 of Israel. And even though the promises that are in the letters may apply to believers throughout all time, the specific warnings and the specific details in the letters apply only to the 144,000 servants of God. Okay, the faithful 144,000 will be kept from the literal hour of trial that comes on the whole world, which has been identified as the sixth trumpet, second woe, taking place on a predetermined day, month, and year, which will result in the judgment of the harlot and some, but not all, of the earth dwellers. The beast, 10 kings, 4 angels, 4 fallen angels, And a 200 million man army under the inspiration of God will carry out this destruction by fire, smoke, and sulfur, and other plagues. And this will all come as a surprise to the harlot. The 144,000 will be present in heaven before the 42-month reign of the beast begins and before the harlot is destroyed. The hour of trial will coincide also with the abomination of desolation, which is the midpoint of Daniel's 70th week, and it will also coincide with the resurrection and ascension of the two witnesses. The 24 elders will already be present in heaven to welcome the 144,000 before the hour of trial. That is, the 24 elders will have been raptured in the man-child rapture of Revelation 12:5 and brought into God's throne room as kings and priests. The man-child or 24 elder rapture will take place after the travail of the woman, which I believe is equated with an invasion of Israel, the Gog-Magog invasion, and after Satan casts his stars or his angels to the earth, but before the rapture of the 144,000 and before the harlot and the earth dwellers martyr the fifth seal, saints. The hour of trial will be the trial, the test, the judgment, the calamity of the harlot and those whom she controls, the kings, the merchants, the earth dwellers, and so on, as well as the first of two judgments of those who dwell on earth, the harlot and the earth dwellers. So we have the first rapture here. This is the 24 elders. Okay, this I'm hoping is ours. This is our rapture. A war in Israel. And it's before Satan casts a third of his stars to the earth. And Satan himself will be on earth. He stands before the woman. Okay, so then there's our rapture. Immediately after our rapture, that's seals 1 through 4 and trumpets 1 through 4. And then we have the fifth trumpet. And this is when the pit is opened. And then we have the fifth seal. And this is when the harlot and the earth dwellers martyr believers. Okay, the 144,000 are going to be sealed and present back here. This is where the message to the seven churches takes place. Okay, is after we're raptured, the 144,000 are going to receive the message that's in these letters. The harlot is going to martyr believers, and they're going to be present under the altar in heaven. And that's when they cry out for justice, for vengeance. Okay. The 144,000 will be raptured here. Okay, this is the second rapture. It's before the hour of trial. Okay, and this is the hour of trial right here, the sixth trumpet, which is the second woe. It's when the two witnesses ascend. It's on the same day as the abomination of desolation. It's when the three angels give the message that worship God only. The hour of his judgment has come. Babylon has fallen, and don't take the mark of the beast. Okay, and then there's the 42-month reign of the beast, and then the second coming. Okay, so that's how all that works. All of that's in my PDF, Kingdom of Priests, the timeline template. You can get a copy of that. Link is in the description box. Let me know what you think in the comments section. We'll see you on another video. Till then, have a blessed day.